agenda. The first panel from the production animal world is titled Safety First, and it'll be starting in just a couple of minutes.
Welcome everybody. It's really great to see you all. I see a lot of familiar faces, interesting backgrounds, virtual and real. So yeah, really good to see you all. I welcome you all. So let's start, with our first panel, and allow me to introduce myself. I'll do my introduction, and then I'll pass it on to the other panelists. We've got wonderful list of panelists here. Great experience coming all along. So myself, Mohammed Abdullah, Senior Engineering Director at Folio 3 Software, and I'm heading the AgTech practice and also the animal care practice here. One of the founding members of the Digital Animal Summit, and I also am one of the advisory council members. Folio 3, we've been in the software space for over 2 decades, and also in the AgTech space for a very long time now. And we've helped many companies in the AgTech space. We've helped them and just industry leaders with digital transformation, strategy, and implementation. I'm based out of Toronto. And as I said, we've got an excellent panel here to talk about production animal protein industry and how they're embracing digital transformation, and what our panelists think about the challenges and the opportunities that we all see in the coming days. Now I ask my panelists to introduce themselves, share their profiles and roles, and tell us about themselves and who their customers are. So we'll start with Alan Michigamba. Alan, over to you.
Thank you, Abdullah. Good morning, everybody. I am Alan Michigamba, and I currently serve in a business consulting role for a handful of organizations in the protein sector. Most recently, I was with the American Angus Association. Prior to that, I was with Zoetis and Pfizer Animal Health. And actually, the panel this morning, both Rodrigo and Paulo are former colleagues, and I work closely with Heather Donnelly as well. So it's kind of like a family reunion, but better because it's not. So I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Alan. Heather?
My name is Heather Donnelly. I'm the Vice President of Operations for Progressive Beef. Progressive Beef has a program called Progressive Beef that is really a quality management system to provide verification and transparency for feed yards. We have 58 feed yards over the country in our program, about 1.7 million head of fed cattle. And I want to know, Alan, how I can get a fancy background. So I do Zoom, but not video very much. So something that looks cooler than my car here.
I can take care of you, Heather.
And thanks for having me today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Heather. Paulo?
Oh, hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Paulo Loureiro, veterinarian, working with Zoetis for the last 3.5 years. I'm 25 years in agribusiness. I'm originally from Brazil. So in Zoetis, I am with the technical team from the global commercial development, livestock, so all species livestock. Happy to be here and interested to know more about, innovation and share some perspectives.
Great, thank you. Rodrigo?
Hi, Rodrigo Carranza. Like Alan said, it's nice to see some familiar faces, people we've worked with in this Brady Bunch arrangement here on the screen. Yeah, I'm originally from Bolivia. I've been in the U.S. Industry for about 20 years, most of my life in the animal health space with Zoetis, Pfizer before that. I worked with Boehringer Ingelheim on the Latin America cattle marketing team, and now recently with Diamond V, part of Cargill. We have a division that I run that is does some work similarly to what to Heather runs on the Progressive Beef side, but it's focused on the dairy. It's called the Dairy Quality Center. We have about 600,000 cows represented. There's about 150 vets that are certified verifiers and certifiers. So it's a program that's a verification, certification, and continuous improvement focused on helping producers think about themselves as beef producers as well. As you all know, cows change career paths at some point in their life, and they go from the milk supply to the beef supply, a very important part of the beef supply. So that's what I run today at Diamond V.
Right. So you're in career counseling.
Yes, sir.
All right. Wonderful. So, we all have been through a lot. Everybody's been through a lot in the past month and a half. A lot of people, never worked from home. And I was speaking with Paulo the other day, and he was saying, like, it's very different for me. So we all know, how this is turning out. So my first question, Alan, to you is, how's the experience been for the industry overall since the, COVID outbreak, and how is the industry taking it?
Yeah, I will. I'm going to, I guess, echo what Dumair said earlier when he put a slide up about the unsummit. I would say the way business is right now is all about uncertainty, and what I think is interesting and exciting is watching organizations that adapt and realize the world's going to be a very different place now. So as those organizations do that and that are doing that now are the ones that are going to be successful whenever we slowly come out of this situation we're in from a work environment. You see other organizations, or I do, that seem to think nothing's going to change, and I think that's a mistake, because there are going to be a lot of changes, and from everything from the amount of travel we do to the amount of remote work we do to the way we interact with our various colleagues. So I see it as a time of opportunity, an exciting opportunity, but nonetheless opportunity, and there's risk.
Yep. Yeah. No. Heather, what are your thoughts?
So my thoughts are, for us, it's absolutely, I echo those sentiments. Like, for us at Progressive Beef, is an opportunity to look at our processes, change them, get better, streamline them. We need to be on site at feed yards. So that has been a challenge for us, because we're all over the United States. We can't get into these feed yards. We audit them, and so we have to still maintain business. So we've had to adjust our practices to get these audits done when they need to be done. But at the same time, because of that uncertainty that Alan talked about, we are not top of mind for anybody, because they're trying to keep their employees safe, make sure they have a workforce at these feed yards. And of course, right now on the fed cattle side, they're just trying to get cattle to a plant, and stuff is backing up. So it's really trying to understand how our people at the feed yards are feeling, also is impacting what we do and how we do it, and prioritizing, being like, okay, this is not important, or just having extra customer service to just do stuff for them, because that's what they need to right now to get through stuff.
Yeah, comforting all of them, and just being there for them is really important for all businesses at this point. Paulo, what do you think?
Well, I think that nobody could predict what we're going through. So it's new to us, from animal health industry, for any industry in the world. And if you think about food production, as Heather was saying, we need to take care of the animals all the time. You cannot say, oh, I cannot go see you, I cannot go and feed you. You have to be there. So from Zoet's standpoint, what we're doing is to be being present as we are requested. Sometimes customers ask us to go, and we take all the, the precautions to be there and help them. But we also are doing a lot of this video conferencing, education through video, which you have to do, helping them to continue to be engaged, motivational stuff. You have to do that. Bring people in and say, we understand what's going on there. We are here to help. We offer our expertise, and this is a great tool so you can be present all across the globe, and maybe in one day you can visit 5 countries with this and help customers on a daily basis. So I also see that for us in animal health, we see how critical is the work we do to support people in the field, and also to provide to workers and the animals under their care everything we can in order to help. So today, I think we need to be, the word I will use is compassionate, be there for them and do what we can, because while I can be in the office or here in my home office, the people in the field, they have to go see the animals. They have to make sure everything is in place. So it's it's impressive what people are doing today.
Wonderful. Thank you. Rodrigo, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, not much more to add. I think it was well said. I think the only thing that is interesting is I have the same challenge. I think when I was working with BI in the Latin America market, as Paulo would know, there's a lot of places that are hard to get to, right? In Brazil, in other countries, and we were constantly trying to figure out how do we reach them with technology? How can we do virtual visits? How can we get some of their records and help them out? And I see that this has accelerated that need, and now we're starting to do that by need, and finding ways, as Heather said, finding ways to get on the farm. This whole business, all of our businesses depend on us being feet on the ground, being able to see and help the producers. But this has really helped us think of how can we be more nimble? How can we find other ways? And very appropriate to this discussion today is how can we use technology to better approach our customers and do our business slightly different. So it's accelerated things that we wanted to do. One thing that I would say has not changed that's been encouraging is that the consumer is waking up a little bit to, hey, here in the US especially, is we're just used to going to the supermarket and finding food. Have no idea how it gets there, don't care in some cases. We just care, that it was done right, but we assume that it's going to be there. And now this is helping people think a little bit more about what goes on to get the food to their plate and what the farmers have to do in order to produce it. And so consumers are also, however, still very interested in animal welfare and making sure that production is done appropriately. They do want to know where their food comes from, and this again has accelerated it. So I think opens up a lot of opportunities as well.
Yeah, thank you. So, Alan, one question for you on how the consumers are seeing this. I mean, I've since we all got into quarantine, I've had a lot of beef, and I think I'm more beef than human now. But once the pandemic is over, how do you think digital technology will really impact consumer knowledge and confidence as to where the protein is coming from, and how would they look at protein purchases now?
Yeah, I think it's a huge opportunity for the industry and using digital. If the power and impact of digital information, if it wasn't already unleashed, it's been fully unleashed the last couple of months, right? Digital allows retailers and food service in this case to provide a lot more information to consumers, to be more flexible about it, to do it on a as-need basis. I'll give you a couple examples. So my local supermarket emails me 2 to 3 times a week with recipes, specials they're offering, information on their producers or suppliers, whatever the case may be, right? But contrast that with the weekly mailer that we all get in our mailbox we've been getting for decades, right? That mailer, I believe, is going to lessen in importance, while providing it digitally will allow a retailer, in this case, provide a lot more information, right? And a fraction of the cost, and probably much more efficiently when it comes to terms of return on investment for sales. And the other example I'll give you is my 83-year-old mother, who actually lives on the ranch. It's in my background right here. So she uses an app to develop her weekly grocery list, right? Then she transfers that content to her retailer's app or the grocery store app and fills it to fill the order and then schedule her pickup. And she does this without even a high-speed connection, right? And she's 83. I mean,
wow.
See how it's changing. She's not an early adapter. Let me put it that way. So you can see how things are changing. I think it's only going to continue to change as we've learned, all of us learn to become more adept at using digital.
Oh, yeah. It's really, really good insight. Rodrigo, the beef supply chain, how do you see that being disrupted now? And you mentioned about getting more nimble. So how can technology really help? And, what do you see, what the industry can do now?
Yeah. I mean, we a lot of us here on the call, we are in the industry. Maybe there's some that are on the technology side looking into the industry. So I'll just speak a little bit to how it's been affected. As you guys know, over the years here, at least in the United States, we've consolidated a lot of the processing capacity into a handful of key packers, right, on the beef side. A little less so on the dairy side, but still held by some major processors. And so that's become highly efficient and low and reduced cost and whatnot. But in this situation, it has made us very fragile. Now it's still being held together. It's still moving forward, but it certainly provides a challenge. So I think being nimble coming out of this is, I think there's going to be much to what Alan mentioned. The shopper connectivity to their supermarkets is maybe even go further in their connection of the consumer directly to a processor, or furthermore down the supply chain down to a producer. I have an ex-colleague of ours, Alan, you will know her, Jenny Schutte, that she is a small beef producer in Tennessee, and they market their own beef. And they've been doing it the old way, they have a trailer that they take to a local, to the town and to a parking lot, and they kind of put out a newsletter and social media for people to go buy. And now they can't keep product on their shelves, so to speak, with the demand of and people looking for them. Now there's no good way to connect them, so there's technology opportunity there to connect consumers with some of those local producers that are producing beef or producing other goods. Not to mention, not to say that it's going to supplant, obviously, the larger supply chain. We need that in order to get it all over the country and feed our growing planet. But definitely, those things are going to change to figuring out how we could have some more local supply chains, more regional supply chains. I work with two pretty large regional supply chains. Our partners, Cavaness Beef and CS Beef, great companies that process more locally, for example. And working with those and having access and relationships with them through digital technology, I think, is going to be enhanced by what's happened.
Yeah, thank you for those insights. And this is in line with, I was speaking with Jay Thieler. Unfortunately, he was not able to join us on the panel today from AgriBeef. But he was mentioning this, that having a solid e-commerce presence and directly reaching out to consumers has really shown how important it is in the last couple of months for them. So really will change how businesses are reaching out. Heather, you've been implementing technology at far-flung areas of the country and reaching out to areas where even cell coverage is not there. So how is what have you seen? What are the keys to be successful in technology implementation in the industry?
So I think to be successful in the country, and we have a lot of basic challenges on just connectivity. They don't have good internet, or their facilities inhibit some of the connectivity that they're in. And so once we get past that, and it's just the human side on some of these. So I know Alan talked about his 83, his mom doing that, which is awesome. My mom has not gotten to that same level yet, but it's getting those people to embrace it. It's change, right? It's different. And it's trying to tell them the why we're doing it, but then also keeping it extremely simple. I think the app that we use for Progressive Beef in the field, we have young guys that are, and gals, so in their 20s to, the sky's the limit there. And we spend more time with the older people on figuring stuff out, but it's that human interaction that determines our success in the field, on taking the time to understand what's important to them, and then just their challenges and the circumstances. So like with the COVID stuff today, there's so much going outside in the yards, that for us to understand that helps us implement some of this technology with them. But it's going to be absolutely critical going forward, and like the technology that we use is going to help, like Rodrigo had said, connecting those production practices and what happens on the ground with that consumer. Because before, they just went to the grocery store and I got beef. Now they were forced almost to try to understand what happens before the grocery store. And I've seen a lot of ranches or smaller feeders pop up where they're selling beef. But like in my local community here, small community in Kansas, 2,500 people, our local butcher, which we have one, they are booked out till January of 2021. You can't even get a spot to get. And I've talked to other communities around here. It's the same everywhere. Everyone's talking to that rancher, farmer feeder, and booking a slot.
Wow. 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 Yeah, that's really interesting information there. Paulo, you've been in precision farming, right? And you've seen that a lot. And so how do you think, what should be the key focus on animal health when it comes to precision farming?
Well, I was listening to Rodrigo and Heather, and I will continue on that same topic in transition to precision livestock farming. So think about what they just said. People want to buy beef. People want to, have access to that, and they can't. So this is a big, opportunity for the industry. We know that, like Rodrigo explained, is happening in the US, happened in Brazil, happened in Australia, consolidation in the packing industry, so in the packers. So I see more opportunities. So maybe we're going to have more labels, independent labels, and someone else is going to open, new packing plants, smaller packing plants, who knows? But this has to grow because we know how people rely on us for production, for protein production. And so then think about precision livestock farming. I'm very curious about this area for a long time. I had the chance to, when joined Zoetis, to work closer to that. We need to, of course, tell our story to consumers, why and how we do what we do. So the why, I think they know, because they feel the need to have access to this amazing, food. But how that food comes from the farm to the table is a big question. So think about traceability. Food, this is key to understand how we produce beef. So think about also how we do what we do in the farm level, animal welfare. I like better to say animal well-being. There's a misconception sometimes that people think we don't take care of the animals. I think we do a great job there, and we have some things we need to improve. So the more transparency you get in the system, how you can show what you're doing, the better for us and the industry. We're going to, of course, be able then to correct the mistakes that are being done, maybe for lack of training, for lack of knowledge, whatever that is, we can fix, so we know how to fix. And then we also can showcase what we do well, and we do a lot of great things. So animal well-being is key. So when you think about precision livestock farming, if you can detect animals before they get sick, it's amazing. So they are going to get sick because, unfortunately, when you have animals came together, you move animals from farm A to farm B, and they commingle with animals they don't know before. I'm listening to an echo here. I don't know. So maybe, okay, thank you. And that increases stress, uncertainty, and they get sick by, lack of some issues with the immune system. So what we can do is, if you understand animal behavior in a higher level, like for cattle, and you can do for swine, for birds, you can, by the behavioral change, you can intervene. So think about animals that are not drinking water properly because they don't feel comfortable in a new home. And if you can go there and work with them, make them comfortable in that environment, again, they're probably going to drink water. But if you don't know if they are drinking or not drinking water, it's just a simple thing. They can get sick because they're shy. They don't want to approach the water bunk. So with food is the same. So what I'm saying is, if you can track animals properly, if you can understand animal behavior and translate that into information accessible to me, to you, to any specialist, you can really see what's going on. Algorithms are also a great tool, but you have to have people to interpret what the algorithms are telling you. So I believe very much in the future. And if you have a good idea, please bring that forward. The more we understand about the animals, the better it is to prevent diseases. So I think the biggest focus for for precision livestock farming, one of the biggest areas, and maybe the big blockbuster will come from detecting, early sickness.
Yeah, very valid point. Yeah, and that ties in to biosecurity as well, right? So with all the contamination that is, if God forbid that happens, if you have that information beforehand, as you mentioned, you can trace where it's coming from, then it really becomes, easier to go back and make sure you're proactive rather than reactive on that.
Yeah, and then you can integrate nutrition with animal health in a seamless way, so you can have a clear vision about what's going on and provide full transparency to whoever want to see what we're doing.
Yeah, no, valid points, valid point. So all the, participants here, I'd just like to mention that we'll reserve, we've got about 10 minutes left for this panel, but, I'd like to keep 5 minutes for questions from, participants. So if you want to ask a question, just post it in the Zoom chat window, and we'll pick up those questions and, and pass it on. If you want to ask the question to a specific panelist, please mention their name. So Alan, you mentioned reaching, directly consumers reaching out and buying and getting more aware on what they're buying. Do you see now that, they'll be more conscious and they'll be, they want to verify what the producers are claiming, the product to be. And is there a digital approach to verify all of that?
Yeah, absolutely, Abdullah. And as Heather and Rodrigo both mentioned earlier, people want to know where their food comes from. And even more so now, they want to know how it was produced, right? So you start, or the industry starts with traceability, but the next step in traceability is going to be a digital piece called the single distributed ledger technology, or blockchain, if you will, right? So blockchain allows data sharing and data verification for people up and down the supply chain, for all the way from the initial seed stock producer, perhaps to the retailer, the food service entity as well. And there's a lot of benefits for that. Number one, of course, is transparency to the consumer. They can validate that how the animal is produced, not just based on claims, but there is a verification process. And then also from the production side of things, that data sharing, data streaming, and that consensus, if you will, to share data allows them to identify potential improvements in efficiency, which in turn will enhance sustainability. So blockchain's been a kind of a catch-all phrase used the last couple of years. You don't hear as much talk about it right now because we're on to the latest new cliche, but nonetheless, there's a lot of great work being done in the agriculture sector regarding blockchain. And as that all comes together, it just helps our story even more so.
No, we have, good points there. Good points there. And this relates to my next question that for, Heather, consumers want this, traceability and more information and credibility on what's being labeled. But then, on one hand, you have this transparency, but then, businesses want confidentiality as well. So how does technology really help, can help balance the two?
So you are correct. At least on the beef industry side, they're very protective of their information. And sometimes I feel personally, it's just an awareness of understanding that the questions or the information the consumer wants is not necessarily to get into our business. It's just they don't know. And so they want to know. So it's using then the technology to give that transparency that the consumers want, but allowing the producers to select which information is given, or to take that raw data and put it in a form or a report or information that is easily understood to that consumer. So it's the best of both worlds. And then just hopefully, and I think it has to be a gradual transition, as even though it's the beef industry, within that supply chain, there's a lot of competition with each other, which I think after this COVID-19, I think we need to do a better job of working together. We're on the same team, right? Like football, if the lineman's pushing back turns around and takes out the quarterback, that doesn't do any good to get the ball down the field. So we need to work together and just take a step back and, be transparent, but then protect our information at the same time.
Good. Yeah. No, those are valid points. It's a delicate balance, but I think we'll all learn as we go. Sometimes consumers won't be happy with the lack of information, and sometimes businesses won't be happy to release a lot more, but you gotta balance that. Rodrigo, I've got a question for you from the audience. There were two similar questions there. People are saying that, what's going to happen when, there'll be a sharp decrease? Are you guys seeing a sharp decrease in beef consumption? And then, there's another question on the alternate protein side. So is that still a threat? It was a huge thing before COVID that alternate, protein, lab meat is going to take over. How have you seen all of that happen and, unfold in the last 2 months or so? And how do you see the future?
Was that question to me?
Yeah, Rodrigo, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Save the really tough one to me. Thanks. I'm having just a little bit of problem connecting. I just wanted to make sure. Can you hear me okay? I'm cutting up a little bit.
Yeah, we can hear you fine now.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's a really tough question. I think from what we have seen, right, is there is that is definitely was something that was getting a lot of traction and a lot of media play. And what we at least have seen now, and Alan and Heather are also very close to the beef supply chain as well. They can mention, but I've actually seen that quiet down a little bit, and we see, we've seen reports of supermarkets having a hard time keep shelves full of beef, traditional natural beef products, and some of the other plant-based, some of the other products that are that are like plant-based proteins. Not obviously the lab meat is not something that's out in supermarkets, so it's hard to tell how that is moving. But I think a lot of folks have moved to the traditional supply chains where they know the area that and what there. Obviously, what we're about, and this just a week ago, was on the Animal Ag Alliance conference and discussing these topics. And a lot of it is going to be providing the choices to consumers, so that there is going to be a place for a lot of these different technologies. It'll be interesting to see if those same consumers that are looking for cleaner labels, more natural, looking for less ingredients in their products, are going to adapt or adopt meat that's grown in a lab, or products that have very large ingredient lists in their labels. That'll be interesting to see. But at the end of the day, we still see that health, price, and taste are the three biggest consumer reasons for purchasing. So I think there is going to still be some growth there and opportunity for those that for those reasons pick those products. I think there is going to be room for all these different alternatives. Our consumer looks for choices. So that's my take, but I don't have the crystal ball.
Oh, thank you so much for that. And Paul, coming, similar challenges that we've discussed here. Do you see that, coming from Zoetis, you guys have a global, view of things over there. So have they been the same around the globe, or, are they different, based on different regions?
So, Abdullah, your question is more related to what's going on now with food production, or you're talking about technology like precision livestock farming and
food production? Yeah, it's more around food production.
Okay, food production. So I think there's some areas of the globe. The COVID pandemic is not happening in the same, let's say, speed across the globe. So you see here in the US, unfortunately, we saw some issues with, shutdowns in packing plants, which I think we need to respect. The authorities, if they're saying we should slow down and manage, which is not easy for us, but we have to do that. But then you see countries like Brazil where the operations are still full speed ahead. You don't see any kind of, let's say, big issues right now, but we need to be vigilant because that can happen. But nobody stopped to seed, crops. So I think the grain production still going well. I had some calls in Australia, and I saw they're doing a great job there, you know, in planning how to do it. But everything is happening so fast, and certain markets are not taking up, import, beef import or other meat import so fast. And so you have some delays. Like now in Brazil, if you go to a packing plant and ask where they're selling beef, probably 50% of the cattle is being exported to China, which is buying a lot of beef today from Brazil. And the price is stable, very firm, stable for the producer, and unfortunately for the consumer is going up. So we as Oetis, we are supporting farmers across the globe. We see our operations still working perfectly. Of course, you cannot go to the farms like as we should. We're doing more of this kind of remote working, but our tech services and our sales reps are contacting people all day long. So this is happening. Business continuity remains. Our manufacturing plants are working. We have no issues so far, and we are still, very optimistic. But we understand that it's a phase, difficult phase for everyone, for all the industry, for entire industry. But we are essential to food production, so we can't stop. We can't stop. But as I was trying to say, it's not something happening at the same speed and in the same level across the globe. You have big differences right now.
Right. Thank you so much. I see quite a few questions that we have from the audience. I wanted to ask a lot more, but unfortunately we're short on time here. And had it been, the March event that, we were supposed to meet in person, and I think we did the right time, thing by postponing it. But, really looking forward to our, next session where we can get together in person and, have a more intimate discussion on this. There's a lot more questions here, but unfortunately we can't take them. We'll see if the panelists, can take time and answer these questions, and maybe in our next newsletter, we can address that. So with that, I'd like to thank our panelists here. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the great insights that you brought to the table. And I'd like to pass on to Hillary now, Hillary Jensen, to take over and start the companion animal panel. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, guys.